I put a Bible prophecy from Daniel chapter 2 in Leonardo.ai, and this is what came out. But what is this?
This was the dream, and now we will interpret it to the king. Your Majesty, you are the King of Kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed all mankind, and the beasts of the field and the birds of the sky. Wherever they live, he has made you rule over them all. You are that head of gold. Daniel further explains that each of the parts of the statue represent future kingdoms that are yet to come. After you, another kingdom will arise, inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united, any more than iron mixes with clay. This is how these kingdoms appeared in history. The head of gold was Babylon. The chest of silver, the Medes and the Persians. Thighs of bronze, Greece. Legs of iron, Rome, which was divided. The head of gold was Babylon, with Nebuchadnezzar being its most powerful king. But after King Nebuchadnezzar's death, Babylon was conquered by Persia. Daniel lived to see this part of the dream fulfilled, even warning the new king, Belshazzar, of his impending doom. In Daniel chapter 5, Daniel describes the mysterious message written on the wall by a ghostly hand. This is the inscription that was written, Mene, Mene, Tekel Upharsin. Here is what these words mean. Mene, God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. Peres, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. This prophetic message came true that very night. Armies invaded Babylon. Belshazzar was killed, and the empire of the Medes and the Persians took over. In Nebuchadnezzar's dream, Persia was represented by the chest of silver. This makes sense because Persia was an amazingly wealthy kingdom, albeit not as wealthy as Babylon. Eventually, the powerful empire of Media and Persia was usurped by the Greeks. The Greco-Persian War began in 499 BC and lasted about 50 years. By then, Persia had already begun a long decline as a world empire, but Greek culture and influence continued to grow, sweeping across the known world from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to India. As most people back then traveled with their legs, it's fitting that the Greeks would be represented by thighs of bronze. All of this took place hundreds of years after Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar were long since dead. So how could Daniel know what was going to happen unless God told him? The next part of the statue is even more fascinating. Daniel describes it as feet of iron, making it very strong. But it's not just one metal. It's also mixed with clay and divided into two parts. This is an amazingly accurate description of an empire and people that Daniel could not have imagined in his wildest dreams, because they did not even exist when he was alive. I'm talking about the Roman Empire, perhaps the most powerful and influential empire and culture in history. Hence, the iron. Iron as a weapon is stronger than gold, silver, or bronze. Part of Rome's overwhelming success as a military power was due to its mastery of iron weapon manufacturing. But Rome wasn't just iron. It was also clay. What did this mean? The Babylonians came from Babylon and were primarily one ethnic background. The same can be said about the Persians and the Greeks, so it makes sense to represent them with a single metal, i.e. gold, silver, bronze. But the Romans were different. They were a mixed people that came from many different countries. Even the Apostle Paul, who was born a Jew and proud of it, was also a Roman citizen, having been born in the Roman city of Tarsus. So the fourth kingdom was made of iron, mixed with clay, but it was also divided into 2 feet. The fascinating thing is that Rome indeed was divided into an Eastern and Western empire. Again, how could Daniel know that this was going to happen apart from divine inspiration? But the prophecy doesn't end there. Daniel saves the best for last. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of a mountain, but not by human hands. A rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. This blows me away because it so wonderfully knits the Old and New Testaments of the Bible together into one amazing, miraculous story. So far, we've only been talking about earthly kingdoms that come and go in history. But now, Daniel talks about a kingdom that will last forever. He talks about the rock cut out of a mountain, but not by human hands. A rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. The rock that Daniel is describing is Jesus Christ, and drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. 1 Corinthians 10:4. According to Daniel, the rock would arrive in the time of those kings. And guess what? Jesus was born just as Rome was reaching its zenith of power. Eventually, Rome itself would become a Christian nation, at least in name. But the final fulfillment of this prophecy won't take place until the second coming, when Christ will set up his eternal kingdom. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne in heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world."
Nebuchadnezzar's amazing prophetic dream in Daniel 2 is corroborated by further visions in Daniel 7, 8, 11, and 12, each providing more amazing details that will be fulfilled in world history.
The predictions found in Daniel were so accurate and obviously miraculous that many skeptics refused to believe that Daniel was written by Daniel at all, or that a historical person named Daniel even existed. They argued that the book of Daniel was a fictional story written in Roman times, and maybe even in the Middle Ages, long after the events described had already occurred in history. But this theory was finally put to rest in the 1950s with the amazing discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in Qumran. Archaeologists discovered ancient copies of Daniel dating back to 220 BC, hundreds of years before Rome would conquer Jerusalem.
Daniel 2 isn't just amazing, it's a miracle.
Do you believe in miracles? I'd love to know what you think. Leave a comment and share this video with someone.